Thanks, Joseph, and welcome everybody. My name is Genevieve Dorr, and I'm the product manager for the product integration division of GSAFleet.gov. And I'm going to be providing an update to you all today on the GSA fleet system modernization. I'm also joined today by a couple of my colleagues that will be providing updates of their own, as well as a demo of soon to be released functionality in our system. So please be sure to stay to the end to see what's coming. And of course, as Joseph mentioned, to have your questions answered. So let's go ahead and get started. GSA Fleet, if you haven't heard, is in the middle of a monumental initiative to modernize its systems. Some of the system names on this screen you may recognize, and some you may have never even heard of before. But one thing is for certain, that in the next year or so, all 19 systems are going to be moving into one single platform. And that's going to be GSAFleet.gov. It's a single platform that will consolidate, modernize, and improve how you, our customers, buy, lease, rent, and manage GSA leased vehicles, as well as your agency-owned vehicles, should you choose to do so. So why are we doing this, right? And the short answer is it's for you. GSA Fleet has always had its customers at the center of its mission, constantly striving to provide the right vehicle at the right price with great customer service and the data required to effectively and efficiently manage a fleet. And as technology has evolved and more data has become available, it's becoming increasingly difficult for our tried and true systems to keep up. And so it's been years in the making, but Fleet is finally at a place where we can roll out new functionality with the goal of making all user experience easier and more efficient. So let's take a look at where we are today at GSAFleet.gov's transition, right? There's a lot of different functionality that's available right now, and there's so much more to come. So we're going to talk a little bit about our upcoming releases in just a few minutes, but for now, I do want to go over some of our past release milestones, right? So GSAFleet.gov was launched into the internet sphere back in October of 2022, when we launched with what was formerly known as the FMVRS functionality. That's the Federal Motor Vehicle Registration System. So all federal vehicles can now be registered in GSAFleet.gov, whether they're agency-owned or they're GSA Fleet leased vehicles. We also launched with that first functionality with our agency-owned fleet management system, what was formerly known as FedFMS, to allow you or our customer users to manage your agency-owned fleets and input expenses, manage license plates, manage your assets, report your fast report data there. All of that was released back in October. Then several months later, in March of 2023, we released our first leasing specific functionality with our leased fleet card replacement ordering module. So we transitioned that one component from GSA Fleet Drive-Thru, which is our legacy system for our customers, into GSAFleet.gov so that you can now order your replacement WEX cards directly from our platform. We also moved at that same time a separate system. So this one was exciting because we actually got to decommission a whole system, the dispatch and reservation module. And that was brought into GSAFleet.gov as an optional tool for you to use to organize your agency-owned or your GSA leased vehicles into motor pools. At that time, we also launched our help page, which we will reference a couple of times throughout our desktop workshop today, but is a great resource for you to find how-to videos, tutorials, user guides on all of the functionality that we have released so far in our platform. And then most recently, we just also released in July Wallet. And Sarah is going to be talking about that a little bit more. But along with Wallet in that interface, I do want to point out there was also a monumental effort to make sure that our interfaces with all of our financial systems was in place for that functionality to be released. So while it might seem just one small bullet point that Wallet was out there, it was a monumental undertaking, and congratulations to Sarah and her team for getting that built and functioning fully in our system. It was really, really a great effort. All right, so a couple of things I want to point out about this milestone page, right? And that is you're seeing functionality being released in what I'll say bits and pieces, right? One piece at a time. And that's because GSAFleet.gov is being developed with the agile methodology. This basically means that instead of developing an entire system and throwing it out to the universe and hoping we got the pieces right, instead, we're releasing features slowly into GSAFleet.gov as they're designed, as they're developed, and as they're tested. And this, of course, is helping us make sure that as we're developing screens and as we're developing functionality, we're making sure we're doing what works for you. To date, we've been busy laying the foundation for all of that transition work that we hope to be able to accelerate very quickly of drive-through into our system. And, like I said, we've already shifted a couple of items already, but I can't wait to see more. In the meantime, with that said, though, please continue to use drive-through for any of the functionality that you haven't seen listed here, as that still resides in drive-through. So with that said, make sure you keep your drive-through account up to date. It's still going to be very necessary for our CAM cycle for next year, as well as running reports and any other functionality until we're able to move it in. All right, so before we jump into some updates, I do want to take a pause and just say, thank you. Thank you to everyone on this call and everyone who's not on this call who has provided feedback on our designs, who has participated in user testing, who has engaged with our platform and taken the time to send us an email to offer suggestions for future enhancements. We strive to build the best system possible, but we can't do that without your input. And so as you can see on the slide here, we do encourage you to share your suggestions for future enhancements with Fleet Systems Modernization at GSA.gov. And we'll be sure to make sure it gets to the right product team so that as they're building our repair functionality, they'll be seeing your comments. As Sarah goes to improve more of wallet functionality and build further reporting capabilities, it'll be in her inbox. So with that said, while we will be forwarding these emails and the suggestions and they'll be evaluated, we may not be able to execute on all of them right away. But that being said, they are being documented for future consideration and development. So hang with us. Might not be today, but we hope to be able to give it to you in the future. All right, so let's take some time for updates on features in the system, and as well as some FAQs that we've gotten about Wallet. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah Whitmore, Product Manager for all things business management in GSAFleet.gov, to talk about our most recent release, Wallet. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Genevieve, and hi, everyone. Actually, Stacey, if you don't mind just going back one slide, touch on that real quickly. So yeah, as Genevieve said, our wallet feature in GSAFleet.gov launched on July 17th. And just some of the things just kind of to note on that the wallet does, it does allow for you, our customers, to include all of your accounting details. Previously for DoD, these details were housed in SpeedPay. And we also had some details that were housed in GSA's main accounting and financial system. So now we have migrated those to the wallet. And so those features, the accounting details include the treasury account symbol, as well as the fiscal station number, which is specific to DoD, and then also supplemental accounting information. Again, this is geared towards civilian and DoD, but there are some additional components within the supplemental details that are specific to DoD. And so we can touch on those in a little bit. Also, the wallet does support leasing, purchasing, and short-term rentals, so all of GSA Fleet offerings. And then it is also for all federal customers, both civilian and DoD, must use the wallet to record their line of accounting information. And specifically, it's that treasury account symbol that is required. And we do need that for all federal customers that are doing business with GSA Fleet. And we are excited to share that we have an enhancement coming soon for the wallet. And we're targeting early September in advance of the fiscal year. And the enhancement will be specific for DoD, but it is a bulk upload tool that will allow DoD users to to add their accounting information at the vehicle tag level. Right now, we don't have that feature. So having that accounting information at the tag level can be a little arduous. So we want to make sure we get this incorporated to hopefully streamline that process as you do add your FY24 accounting information. If you need to put it at the tag level, this should hopefully streamline that process for you. And we do have a user guide and video tutorials that are out there on GSAFleet.gov homepage, or pardon, help page, among a whole host of other tools out there for you to look at. And then obviously, if there are questions or concerns, if you need any assistance with the wallet, we do have an email address there for our Fleet Business Oversight Group. Please don't hesitate to reach out to them as well, and we will get you questions, hopefully, really soon, to any of the issues that you're encountering. Here's just a couple, we have a couple slides just geared towards some of the general questions that we have been getting. And we have the answers here as well. This is going to be, the slide deck is shared with you all. So, hopefully this can serve as a resource going forward. But again, just to reiterate, who will use the wallet, it is for all federal agencies, again, both civilian and DoD. Non-federal entities such as tribal groups, DC government, our contractors, will not be using the wallet, and mainly because non-federal entities don't have a treasury account symbol, which is the mandatory piece of the wallet that we need from our federal entities. Also, the IPAC process is not enabled, that's not available rather for non-federal entities. So again, non-federal entities won't be using the wallet, and your determination is based on when you're setting up that BOAC. So when it's initially created, you provide an agency and bureau, and that's how it's established in GSA's accounting system as federal or non-federal. The second one here is, how can I get access? Oh, you can go back real quick. How can I get access to the finance officer role? So customers need to contact their agency headquarter fleet manager. If you don't know who that is, please reach out to our Fleet Systems Modernization mailbox that you can see here. This is key. Your headquarter fleet manager will be able to assign that role to you, but they are the ones to make that determination that, hey, if you do in fact need to have that role within your agency. And just lastly, just something to mention, our FSRs cannot provide this access to you. So it does need to come from within your agency. All right, and then who should I contact to find my accounting information, including my treasury account symbol? Understand that some of this is new for you all, and this may not be a term that you all are all familiar with. So you do need to connect with your internal finance and budget personnel within your agency. These individuals will know your TAS information. GSA Fleet does not have it. We don't determine an agency's TAS. So again, you do need to work internally to find that information out. The wallet will maintain not only the current fiscal year, but you will have a record going forward of your previous fiscal year line of accounting information, which I think will really help and serve as a good reference for going forward. The TAS does not tend to change from year to year outside of the years that are, the funding is tied to, but the main piece of the TAS is the appropriation, the TAS main, and unless you have a new appropriation or your mission's changing, that's probably not going to change. Again, you need to kind of talk that through with your budget and finance, but just from some of my observations, that's what I've noticed. So I think really having this prior fiscal year data in the wallet will help be able to reference going forward. And then the last one up here is where you can find resources. Mentioned it earlier, but GSAFleet.gov's help page has a wealth of resources, and we do have a specific one for wallet, a user guide, and a video tutorial to help you navigate the system. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Genevieve.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. And thank you for the update. I know we had a couple of questions come in the chat while we're in the Q&A block while you were talking. So I invite you to go take a peek. But let's go ahead and talk about what's next, right? We've talked about what's already launched, but what's coming at us in the near future? So as I stated earlier, we're developing GSAFleet.gov using the agile methodology, and that allows us to be flexible to shifting priorities, external influences, as well as some dependencies on other products. It allows us to shift our focus as needed to keep things moving forward towards that goal of a single modernized system, right? So in that spirit, let's take a look at the road ahead for the next couple of months and see what functionality we have planned. All right, so the next item to be released, and the one that shall be demoed today, is the Fast and CDD functionality for our leasing customers. The goal for this is to have it migrated into GSAFleet.gov in late August or early September. So it is undergoing testing at this moment, both for verification and making sure our data pipelines are right. Also having some users test the functionality out just to make sure that we've checked the boxes or crossed our T's and dotted our I's. Meanwhile, as that's happening, we have another team that's also working on migrating the GSA leasing customer number into GSA.gov, GSAFleet.gov. And in addition to that, we have designed a new functionality, as you can see there, office management. And if you remember that from FMVRS, was something that had existed in legacy, but it gives our customers a way to group your vehicles as needed. And we'll talk about that in just a few moments as well. And then lastly, of course, as you can see in the green dot, we are also working diligently to bring over Preventative Maintenance Express, as well as other drive-through reporting capabilities. So let's take a closer look at what all this means. All right, Fast and CDD for leased vehicles. As you may know, if you are a user of GSAFleet.gov today, a Fast and CDD fields and reports are already available for our agency-owned fleets. Well, in early September, hopefully, if not late August, excuse me, we will be bringing over Fast and CDD for our leasing vehicles and leasing customers into GSAFleet.gov. And along with that, right, we've got a couple of updates that we've made. And the first is, and I've been asked this multiple times, so I wanted to bring it up, is the Fast report will be indeed available in a .xlsx format. I know that some users had experienced some issues when trying to download the old Fast report from drive-through because it was in a, I'll just say, more antiquated Excel document. So that has been updated, as well as CDD has had some additions to it. So we've updated the validations for fields that funnel right into the Fast report, with the goal of trying to make sure that as people are inputting data, we're catching errors and typos as they happen to avoid the submission and then getting errors at that time. We've also removed the state plate field from the CDD interface. That will not be available on that particular screen. And not new, but reassuring, updating customer-driven data is still allowed at the vehicle level, as well as using a bulk upload feature. So we're not going to make you do 11,000 vehicles at once. You are able to upload a template into our system. However, if you really only need to adjust maybe a couple of vehicles, you can also do that at an individual level. Also great news, so this permission is being added to the customer fleet manager role. So for those customer administrators, there will not be additional role assignment needed when this launches. Those individuals that already have the customer fleet manager role will have access to Fast and CDD data. All right, so additionally, we have a couple of enhancements that we have already put in the backlog and are happy to say we'll be able to incorporate them next year. And that is the incorporation of EO requirements for telematics data. We also have some enhancements for CDD, such as auto-populating vehicle data that's fed from our vehicle supplier one of the major benefits of migrating 19 systems into one is it's going to have a single source of truth for many different data fields. And so that's one that we are excited to be able to bring forward as soon as we can get our catalog and we call it store, right? It replaces auto choice and CAM online. And then of course, also data retention for exchanged vehicles. As vehicles are swapped in and out of fleets, right? It's a 1-for-1 swap. The idea of being able to bring over some of that data from the old vehicle into the new one to hopefully reduce some of that data entry for you. All right, we do have Lisette Ramirez from Vehicle Management Division to give us a closer look at these in just a few moments. But first, I do want to talk about one of those other pieces, two of those other pieces actually, that we want to go through because they're making all of this transition from legacy systems into the new system possible. And the first one is the customer number transformation. So for our leasing customers, the customer number is a 15-digit combination or concatenation of different data fields that our internal FMIS has. And so we will be calling it one, it'll go from a customer number to customer account. It's a very small change, but it represents a pretty big change in the way that we're going to be working with this information. So instead of identifying your account with a series of 15 numbers, we are moving to 7 digits that's going to be generated by our system and plain language in the form of an account name, as you can see on the second button for new format, that you'll be able to read and identify which account this is, right? And there's several reasons that we're going to be doing that, but I'll get to that in a minute. And then last but not least, of course, we're also going to be accompanying all of this with new functionality. So our plan is to develop new screens where users can see lists of the accounts that they're responsible for, have easy access to FSR contact information, be able to filter and search in case you need to find what you need and when you need it. And of course, once we're able to break from those legacy systems, we're also going to have the ability for you, our customers, to have multiple points of contact in our system. And for each contact to be notified of actions, of changes, of PM reports, of recall reports, right? That's been one of, I'd say, the biggest challenges of our legacy system is we've only ever had one official point of contact. Well, in our new system, we'll be able to put, at least for starters, up to 3 and maybe more in the future. So why change the customer number is probably what you're asking yourself, right? Or you're asking me to your screen. And the number one reason is to increase flexibility. So like I said, that legacy format is a rigid combination of several data fields that have made it difficult to truly structure fleets in a streamlined way for management purposes. Now, with that said, GSA Fleet has been providing, I hope in your case, the best customer service possible, but we're really excited to get to take it to the next level through some of these changes. So one of that big changes is removing the BOAC. As you can see on the screen, it's pointed, it's the 4th grouping of numbers in that legacy customer number. And we're going to remove it from the customer account number or account identifier, but it is not going away. Let me be clear. While it launched, BOACs are here to stay. We are not getting rid of that. That is the way that billing is done internally at GSA. But by not tying your account identity to your financial data, we hope to open a future where you're able to organize your fleet and potentially apply multiple methods of payment to your fleet instead of having to subdivide it down to smaller and smaller levels. Another reason that we're modernizing that or transforming that customer number is that with high turnover in many roles, it's going to be easier for users to understand their account names when it's written in plain language, rather than requiring an explanation of how to identify customer numbers for which area, which part of the country, et cetera. And then lastly, of course, it opens the door for account standardization across all of our fleet offerings. GSA Fleet is our leasing program, it's a purchasing program, and it also has a short-term rental program. And we hope to be able to provide a streamlined way for you to access any and all of those offerings. All right. So just to give you a heads up, this is our plan in three very abbreviated steps, I'll say, for going from our customer number and getting that information into our platform, GSAFleet.gov. And the first step is to migrate. We're going to migrate the user and customer number data from drive-through and FMS, our internal system, and we'll bring it into GSAFleet.gov as a one-to-one migration. This means that as we're moving data over, we are not combining accounts, we're not removing FSRs, we're not removing points of contact, but we're bringing it in and we're keeping your accounts exactly as they are in drive-through, just with a new name. So please, that means keep your drive-through accounts up to date, keep the customer numbers that you've been using for all these years up to date in drive-through, because that is going to be a very key piece for moving and migrating all of this data over. The second thing that we're doing is, like I said, we're creating a user interface where you'll actually have a display of a list of accounts for you to be able to see the accounts that are assigned to you. You're only responsible for one account, you'll see one account. You're responsible for 7, 15, 20. You'll be able to see all of them in a list view, as well as the name of the FSR and the number of vehicles associated with each. And we have some pretty cool hyperlink technology where you're going to then be able to quickly jump to what you need in our system as well. And then last but certainly not least, we're creating an opportunity for our headquarter fleet managers to organize the way that their fleets are structured. So historically, everything is organized at an agency bureau, and then our leasing customer numbers fell right underneath bureau. Agency-owned vehicles may have been organized all the way down to an office level. So what we're doing is we're creating a mechanism by which you can align the way your agency-owned vehicles and your leased vehicles can be aligned. That means that maybe even next year when you run fast data, you may not have to run it separately because it'll all be aligned. All right, so speaking of organizing into offices, let's cover one last item before Lisette takes over. And I promise, bear with me, Lisette, we're getting there, almost done. So I mentioned offices. Another interface that we are designing and will be testing very shortly is office management. So like I said, there's an agency bureau structure that is already in place all over federal government. And many, many, many agencies also have offices. So what is office management, right? It's a way for you, our customer, to organize and manage agency-owned and leased fleets. It's going to allow for greater granularity of access for users in GSAFleet.gov to their vehicles, and it's going to help streamline reports, like I said. And I do have 3 different office types illustrated on this slide. The first one, Office 1, has agency-owned vehicles in it. Office 3 has leasing accounts in it. Office 2 has agency-owned vehicles and leasing accounts in it, meaning you have the flexibility to organize your fleets as you need. You want to do the offices geographically? Absolutely. You want to do it based on mission? Not a problem. You want to do it based on who a point of contact is? Absolutely possible. You have the flexibility to organize your fleets as you need. Now, there are a couple of exceptions, right? And we'll get into those later as we build out these interfaces. But leasing accounts and agency-owned vehicles will be on the same level. And so you'll be able to see your data in one place. And that's really exciting. All right, let's go to the next slide, if you will, Stacy. Thanks. So how are we, the GSAFleet.gov team, preparing to help you all through this transition, right? Number one, we are working on preparing informational packets for headquarter and bureau level fleet managers to give them truly a picture of where all of their accounts sit, where all of their agency-owned vehicles sit, and also to provide some suggestions on perhaps different types of alignment that they can utilize. We're also designing those screens, like I said, to manage those offices, to create offices and manage them, and to align customer accounts to them. And then hopefully we do hope on releasing this in fall of 2023. And I mention that because fall 2023 is when we have more functionality released in GSAFleet.gov, And we are still operating within that legacy customer number structure because we will not be able to break from it until we're able to decommission our other systems, which would happen hopefully within the next 9 months or so. So just to give you a heads up on the timeline there, right? So for the next 9 months, we'll be able to still continue to operate with that legacy customer number that we all know and love. And you'll also be able to start to organize your offices, moving customer accounts underneath that structure so that when we do break from FMS, you'll be able to be fully operational and really start to take advantage of a lot of the benefits that we're building. All right, so I have talked more than enough. It is now time for me to turn it over to my colleague Lisette to give us a demo for FAST and CDD for leased vehicles. So Lisette, the screen is yours. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Genevieve. I'm going to, wait one more time, share my screen. All right, so great, let's jump into GSAFleet.gov. And we will start with the FAST reports. We've been talking about FAST and CDD. So we will start with the FAST report. We'll go to Run Reports. It's pretty straightforward there. And then we will choose from the available reports, we will choose FAST. Click on Next. And here are our new choices here. Our new choice now, we have GSA Leased. Last year, we only had agency owned, and now we have GSA Leased to launch in about September. So let's see here, we are going to choose the previous year, and in October, you'll see this change to 2022 and through 2023. So just wanted to point that out, and we'll select GSA Leased. You can also break it out from combined, foreign, or domestic. So we'll choose domestic. And note here that you will be able to choose from one type of report and from the other. So you can run an agency owned and a GSA leased one separately. And we will have our agency selection here. Bureau, and then also this will be where we're seeing other information, and we'll be adding some more fields here in the future. Well, by the time you see it in production. And we will click on Export Report to Email, and you'll see a green banner at the top. If you've been using GSAFleet.gov, you're a little familiar with it if you have run any reports. So this file can take up to 15 minutes or so, can take up to, but I would say mine have taken maybe about 2-3 minutes, just depends. And I will not have us wait though. I do have a file here to show you what you will get. So this is just about 5 or 6 vehicles. This will be your lease report. And so that one is pretty quick and easy. And we'll go back to the beginning here, our home page, and we will pull the customer driven data or CDD information for one vehicle. So let me pull that VIN for myself here. Okay. So we'll go to, we have a couple places we can start from. We'll start with Manage My Fleet, and we'll go to, I was getting ahead of myself. We have one place we will go to for the one vehicle inventory. And we'll enter the VIN in here. And we will see a little bit of red, and we'll kind of ignore that right now since we are testing, staging, all of that. So we won't be seeing that later. We'll go ahead and click on the hyperlink. I know in some of the user acceptance testings that we've done internally and with customers, they've clicked around in a couple little places, but this is right here where you still need to click for most information. Again, we are getting a red banner, and we can just kind of ignore that for right now. It's kind of hard to, it's bright and red, but we will see the vehicle overview page. We'll go ahead and you select menu and click on customer driven data. And here is the customer driven data screen where you can edit. So I'll go ahead and jump in and make an edit here. So we click on the edit button, scroll back down, and we'll do an obvious one. A lot of you know that law enforcement designation and emergency response, we can't have both. So this should tell us the same, and it has. So we found some issues with your data, and we will go ahead and correct it. And we'll change this back to no, so that this goes away. Save customer driven data. And here is your green banner that says customer driven data was successfully updated. So say you want to update multiple leased vehicles. So we'll go to manage my fleet, vehicle data bulk updates. And we'll use here the vehicle reports manager. And we'll export. Choose from available templates. We'll choose the CDD template. Click next. And again, you now see GSA Leased. We'll click an agency, bureau. And again, you will have a couple other fields to select once we are in production. An export report to email, and you'll again receive the green banner. And I want to show you what that file looks like. Maybe better on this screen. All right. So again, this is just test data. And that is it for all of the information that we have on, and I'm forgetting one thing, apologize for that. So, okay, let's go to Vehicle Reports Manager again, and we're going to now import a template. So same report, say I made some edits on that report I just showed. I now want to upload. So I do still need to select CDD and make sure that you select GSA Leased. The system will let you know that it's an incorrect type of file. It will let you know that there's a template error. And you'll choose from your folder and you'll upload it. And from there, it will let you know how many errors you have and what type of errors, what type of correction, that you need to make on each VIN. And that is all I have for you regarding downloading your FAST report, editing your customer-driven data for one vehicle or for multiple vehicles. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And Genevieve, you can take it away. I will stop sharing.
Thanks, Lisette.
You're
We
welcome.
did have a couple of questions come in while you were
Sure.
talking. One is they weren't able to see the lease report that was the report that was generated. Would you be able to share your screen again?
Sure. What was which lease report? The FAST or CDD?
I'm not certain. It just says I didn't see her lease report.
Okay. Well,
Working from context.
Sure, no problem. Well, can you see this screen? Do you see an Excel spreadsheet?
No, we see a Google search for a VIN.
That is very interesting. Well, that's where I placed my VIN, so I could grab it easiest. So let's see this one. All right. Thanks for your patience on that.
Yep, we see the Excel spreadsheet. And if you don't mind zooming in a little bit.
Sure. I did try zooming in more, but I wasn't sure how much. Does that help?
Perfect. Yes, yes, very much so.
Okay.
And which format are you sharing?
This one is XLSX.
Oh, of which report? Is that the bulk upload template or the fast report?
Oh, it is the fast report.
Okay.
So it's going to pull some of the fields from CDD and from other parts of our system. And all of the information is here. Are there any questions in particular about this?
No, I think they just
Or
wanted,
just wanted to see it? Okay.
yeah, they wanted to see it.
Kind of
Also, there's a
walk-
request to see the bulk upload template.
Absolutely.
Thank
Okay. And let's see, that one was at 200, so I'll pull this one up to 200 as well. I pulled it up to 150 and I didn't want to, I wasn't sure it was just going to be monstrous on the screen. There we go, 202.
Perfect. Scroll up just a little bit for us so we can see the
There we go.
headers. There you go. Yeah. Awesome. So the template, when you download it, is it empty or is there data already associated if you already have something in the system?
So if you already have information in the system, or this is the CDD screen again, this is a CDD lease report. So if office is empty in the CDD screen in the system, it will show up as empty in here as well. If it does have information, it will have information populated in the spreadsheet. And it will have all of the fields that are in CDD.
Excellent. All right. We had a question that Jonathan, who's on the line, had marked. He would like to answer this, so I'll invite him to come on. Does the report download automatically or is it housed somewhere?
I did skip on that one.
Thank you. Yeah. So when you go in here and you do your fast report, the fast report is emailed. You should get that email within less than 15 minutes. There will be a link inside the email. You can click on the link then to download your report.
Yes, I was going to go over the green banner again. That does
And the same goes with the CDD and everything.
right, all of the files, the CDD file and also the FAST file will go to an email. And I'll read this for you. This might be rather small. It's probably as big as I can make it, but this report, the report you've created is now being processed for export and will be emailed to you upon completion. Depending on the file size, this may take up to 15 minutes or more. And if you need assistance, you can contact the contacts here. And so when you receive an email, you will also have a link to the Excel file. And you can, the best way to go about using that file would be right-clicking on that link, and it will download to your download folder. And then you would open it up from there. And I know that is a difference in the experience from drive-through or from other systems where the email or the file, or maybe you can open it up in CSV format, just is kind of there ready populated for you on the screen. This is a little different for you. And GSAFleet.gov, if you run reports, you will get an email with the file in it. So that's a little different in the process. And thanks for thanks for whoever asked it so that I can touch upon that a little bit more.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess since we're here, there's a couple more things we do need to go over, talking about training and things of the like. But Jonathan, since you're here, There are a couple of questions, not necessarily about FAST or CDD, but I'd invite you to take a look over there in the Q&A about generating maintenance reports, tire changes, and for Pat, who is having issues generating reports from GSAFleet.gov, I'm going to have one of my team members take a look at your profile. It may be that you are not assigned a role that has access to reports at this time, mainly because other than until that goes live, it's not a functionality that can be seen widely, right? So we're going to take a look. We're going to see where your scoping is at and where your profile is. And if you don't hear from us by the end of today's session, please email fleetsystemsmodernization@gsa.gov, and you'll see that email address in just a moment, and we can go over that. So Jonathan, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about sort of the future and maybe what reports can be generated in the future and people can get access to.
Did you need me to continue sharing the screen, Jonathan?
No, we're good. I think, Genevieve, you're talking about like down the road. So the customized inventory report, that will be migrating over. You'll still get the same functionality where you can select what fields you want, download that report. Your field use report will be coming, crash report. Those will be there. We are also working on, for any agencies that do the API, we are working on converting the API to GSAFleet.gov as well. So there is more to come on the reports.
Perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah,
Yes.
There's a lot of reporting functionality that is to be coming. We're just not quite there yet. All right. If I could ask Stacy to reshare her screen and put our slides back up. Thank you, ma'am. Perfect. And so thank you, Lisette, and thank you, Jonathan, for hopping in. I look forward to seeing all of that functionality be released. And so with announcements of new functionality, I'd be remiss not to mention training. In fact, Akosua has mentioned in the chat, hey, so now I got the FAST report. What am I supposed to do with it? Well, part of that is training. We have quarterly opportunities for desktop workshops such as this one, where we give updates on GSAFleet.gov. We also have third Thursday Q&A sessions. So our next session is on October 17th. And when you get these slides, you can click the link to register there, or that link to register is also on GSAFleet.gov's homepage to register for those sessions. And then last but not least, if you need help navigating our system or learning how to use a particular feature, feel free to visit the GSAFleet.gov help page for video tutorials and user guides. And any other training requests that you might need, please feel free to email us at fleetsystemsmodernization@gsa.gov. And specifically mentioning the FAST training, I do believe each agency has a point of contact that is sort of the FAST guru for their agency. I do not have a list of names at this time. However, I would say please inquire internally within your organization, as they should be able to point you in the right direction for some of that training on the analyzation of that data. All right, got a couple more questions here. Will this slide deck go out to everyone on the call? Of course, it'll be sent out to everybody that was here and that attended. And let's see, if you would, Stacy, let's do one more slide. All right. So we do have a community of practice. This is a group of individuals that have signed up, put their name and email on our list and said, hey, if you ever need somebody to be a tester for your functionality, give me a call or send me an email. So if you're interested in signing up for a community of practice, when you get the slides, please feel free to click the form and to, sign up to be involved in our feedback process. Like I said at the beginning, it takes a whole group. It takes a village, right, to make sure that this system works for everyone. So we really appreciate your interest and hope you consider signing up. All right. I think we are at a place where we can now open the floor officially for Q&A before I kick it over to Joseph to close us out. We have a couple more questions. Is there a timeline for each part that is migrating? We do have a roadmap that can be shared But let's just say for the most part, we're looking at trying to migrate at least basic functionality over by July of 2024. That is our goal. Of course, you know, while we are trying to hit that deadline, things can shift at times, but we are indeed trying to make sure everything migrates over. For more information on what that order is, stay tuned to our desktop workshops, keep attending, because every time that we have a new sprint or every time that we have a new planning increment, we're making small adjustments and, you know, potentially even reprioritizing. So keep joining us for the most up-to-date information. And then last but not least, let's see, a couple more questions we can answer here. We have a question about updates to FAST according to acceptable vehicle level data business rules. Receiving multiple errors in the Excel validation that requires reconciliation. Jonathan, do you want to talk about the updating that you all went through just to make sure validations are up to date?
Correct. So we did coordinate with INL-FAST, make sure our validations are up to date, that they are correct. So they are correct with the latest INL-FAST validation. If you do download the report, I know there was another question about analyzing the FAST report. So that does go down into Excel. You know, you can analyze it. INL is there to help make sure the rules are correct. If you do find any issues, let's say maybe a GVWR on a leased vehicle is not correct, you will need to reach out to your FSR to have them correct the GVWR in our system. That is not something you have access to, so that way going forward in the future, that GVWR is correct. But yes, we do have the latest validation rules in place.
Thanks, Jonathan. I saw another chat come in and I'm trying to answer it. They gave a scenario, new customer BOAC account needed. And I was going to type it in, but short answer is you can either contact your FSR or, apologies, Edward, if you are an FSR, you can also reach out to the fleet business oversight email inbox, which I will put into the question for you. Sarah, did you want to add anything there about, you know, as we're migrating stuff over and as we're looking at new timelines and changes, do you want to add anything about customers needing new BOACs or anything of that nature?
No, I think you covered it, Genevieve. I did see something down here with regard to BCFS. I don't know if we've tackled that one yet, but I'm happy to respond to that.
Go right ahead.
So, short answer, Terry, I see your note about will we eventually find our monthly fleet lease statements in GSAFleet.gov, or will that remain in BCFS? That will remain in BCFS. That is a GSA enterprise-wide system for all customers to retrieve their monthly bills. So that will continue on going forward.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that. All right. I think other than Pat and Terry needing a little bit of access to our system. Oh, yes, Eric, if I did not write at GSA.gov, I apologize. Yeah, email at GSA.gov. All right. Well, with that said, I want to thank everybody for their time, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Joseph to close us out.
Thank you, panelists, and thank you everyone for attending today's desktop workshop. As a reminder, the slides are posted on our desktop workshop website, and a recording will be posted there as well. Enjoy the rest of your day.